Welcome back to another hot episode of Just Be You podcast. I'm so excited about my guest today. We connected over Polywork. Sidebar, if you've never heard of Polywork, definitely check it out because they're an amazing platform, underrated, but there's highly engaged people on there, if I can say so myself. But today we are joined with Renata Leo. When I first seen her name, there was so much that attracted me to it outside of I have a partner, an accountability partner. Her name is Renata, and I was just the spelling, and I was like, this is like a match made in heaven. So I was so super excited to connect with her. She's another content writer. And I'm just so excited for this episode. There's so much to talk about it. So I'm going to stop running my mouth and introduce my guest and say hi. And how are you feeling this morning?
Hey, Delia. So I'm so grateful that you have me on. I'm excited. This is going to be a fun time. Doing okay. I wish the sun were out. That's probably the one thing. Besides that, I'm fine. I would rather not have work today and just be able to lay in bed and read a book, but I guess it's okay. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, at least we have in a couple of weeks, it'll be springtime, and hopefully this season it'll actually feel like springtime. So that's something to look forward to.
Definitely. I'm very ready for that. It is crazy. Tomorrow's going to be March as of this recording. March. Oh my goodness.
I know. I can't believe how quickly time is going. We just started 2023, but that just goes to show when you're having fun, time flies.
Sure.
That's what everyone.
Yeah, right. Sure. Okay.
So I hope everyone is just having the time of their lives. So when we first chat, one of the things, when we first spoke, because that was terrible English, but whatever. When we first spoke, I thought one thing that was really unique was kind of your brand name. And it was the buffalo sauce. So I was sitting here thinking, I'm I wonder what's the best thing she's ever put buffalo sauce on, or a must have. Did you ever mix match something and you were this is the best thing ever? How did you come up with the buffalo sauce thing?
So I think, if I remember correctly, it goes back to when I was studying abroad in France. And I don't know if you've ever experienced something where, and I mean, obviously there are extreme cases of this, like money, but talking about not super extreme things where you couldn't have it for a while and then you eventually craved it. I don't know. I feel like that is a pretty normal human experience.
Yeah.
But in France, I studied abroad in France for whatever, it was a semester. So it was 5 months. And I couldn't get buffalo sauce anywhere. It wasn't a thing that they really had. And I mean, before I went, I probably thought I liked buffalo sauce fine. You know what I mean? It wasn't that big of a deal to me. It was just something I used sometimes. And then by my, the middle of my trip, I was just craving it so bad that when I got back, I just started putting it on everything. And I do think, I think I liked it before, but I think that's when I really, really started to want to put it on everything. And so now whenever my fiance gets fries at a restaurant, he asks them for a side of buffalo sauce just for me. Cause he's like, if I don't ask for it, she's going to yell at me. Might as well just give it to us now. Curly fries are my favorite type of fry. I actually have an entire blog post about how curly fries are definitively the best type of fry. So, no one can argue with me. I'm correct. But yeah, no, let me just dip some crispy curly fries in some buffalo sauce. And I know it's not the most original thing, but I'm very happy.
I mean, hey, I love a good curly fry, just like the next person after that. Or I don't know, maybe there's for me, there might be a tie between curly fries and tater tots, because I am a supreme, if I see the tater tots, I'm yeah, I want those. I feel like it makes everything better.
So we have a place near here, and actually that's right, you live nearby, so maybe we should go. But there's a place nearby that it's a pizza shop, and it's brick oven pizza. It's a nicer pizza shop.
Nice.
They have different tater tot dishes. And when I went out with someone from Bumble BFF, I met a friend on Bumble BFF, I took her there, and we were hanging out a few months later. She's I haven't stopped talking about the tater tots. She's my husband is so sick of hearing me talk about the tater tots from this place.
Well, we definitely need to explore that, because I did not know that such a thing existed in this area. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out where stuff is and where the people are. So yes, I'm definitely up for that little excursion, because it just sounds like it'll make me happy.
Oh, I think so. Very good. Very good pizza, very good tots. Yeah, it's a good time.
Yes, I love it. Definitely on my to-do list. And the weather's about to get better. So yes, we're gonna have a little journey. I'm excited for it.
I'm ready.
So when did you start your blog? Tell me a little bit more about your blog.
Sure. So I started, what year was it? I want to say it was 2018 that I started. I was with, I've had a blog editor for a few years and he was my ex partner. And we became friends after we stopped like dating. And he was like, I really think I was trying to find a job out of corporate. I was in a corporate environment working in logistics, and it wasn't a bad environment, but it wasn't what I was passionate about. And I'm just one of those people, like I just need to work on something I'm passionate about. It just makes me feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
And so I knew I could write, and I enjoyed writing. It was something I really liked to do and something I knew I was good at. But he was like, these jobs you're applying for that are like, oh, you need X amount of years in content creation. I'm like, well, technically I have 22 years of content creation, just hasn't been consistent, and it just hasn't been blog posts. It just hasn't been these technical like SEO things. And he was like, well, what you need to do is, I think it's time to like start a repository, start an online portfolio where you have a blog that you post on every week, so they can see you're doing it consistently. They can see the quality, they can see, did I say inconsistently? I might have said, see, I'm doing it consistently. I'm worried I said the wrong word. And they can like see the quality, see the tone, because I'm a very sassy writer. Like people say I write how I talk. So once you see me talk a little bit longer, like you'll be like, oh yeah, sassy, got it. Cool.
Yeah.
Where the buffalo sauce came in was, I was trying to come up with a name, and I definitely wanted it to be something like quintessentially me, but I also knew that I didn't want to niche down. I'm a generalist at heart. I'm certain that'll come up a few times during this conversation, but I knew I didn't want a particular niche. I wanted to just write about whatever I wanted to that particular week. And that did end up lending itself to certain themes, probably because of who I am as a person and what interests me.
Right.
But I just tried to come up with something quintessentially Renata. And I still remember talking to one of my friends about it, that I was like, one of the things blocking me from starting it was just like, I'm like, I don't know what to call it. Like, what do I do? And she was like, Renata, eventually the blog name just becomes part of the brand identity. She's like, it doesn't matter what the name is almost. It just ends up becoming part of the whole. And as soon as she said that, I'm like, okay, I just need to stop trying to figure this out. I just need to come up with something quintessentially me and just run with it. And so buffalo sauce is what I came up with. And I say that buffalo sauce everywhere is the answer to the unspoken question, ma'am, where would you like the buffalo sauce?
Everywhere.
Everywhere, right? Easy. Buffalo sauce everywhere.
I love it. And I also like the point that, you admit to being a generalist and that you don't have a niche, because I know a lot of people, like that's the big thing, and everyone kind of, I feel like, kind of gets hung up on like, oh, who's my niche? Who's my niche? Who's my niche? I need to find one. I need to find a profitable one at that. And it's like, yeah, we all need the money. But is it still organic to you and an accurate representation of yourself? And you kind of give me comfort, because I was like, well, I kind of write about a bunch of different things that all kind of like interest me. So I'm like, well, I don't have a niche per se, because then I also kind of like attract all kinds of people. Right. And we just kind of bond over like the common interests. So that brings me peace. So thank you for that.
I'm glad. Yeah, generalists are having their moment. Like it's starting to be a thing now. I'm super excited about it.
Hey, it's creating its own niche right now. You're a generalist, and that's okay. So that's dope. I love it. So tell me more about your book. How did you even get into that whole process? Because that just seems like, I don't know, daunting a little bit, at least for me, because that's not something I even would think of to do for myself. So what was your process like writing your book?
For sure, 1000%. So definitely daunting. And also there's just a lot of imposter syndrome that I just deal with. I think a lot of us deal with on a daily basis, yeah. Right? Like so back in, what year would it have been? So it's been approximately 2 years. So it must have been 2021. And I have the text. I forget how I looked it up, but I have like the text where I sent to my editor that I was like, I'm certain you've said this to me before, but I think it's time to write a book. And he was like, oh yes, 3 years ago I said that. Yeah, and like I was like, okay, I'm gonna take your word for that. I don't remember that, but I believe you, because that's a you thing to say. So I was actually working for a company at the time that was like, oh, we want to create like a gated white paper for our customers using our blog posts and a little extra stuff. And I was like, I could do that. I was like, I have a lot more blog posts than this company I'm working for. Like, why don't I do that with my own stuff?
Yeah.
And I we started gathering, so we just literally started gathering blog posts and essentially putting them into buckets, right? Like making them, thematically, what's this one about? Thematically, what's that one about? Are there any buckets that, number one, flow naturally one into the other? Are there any overarching themes that we can find that we can put all of them under? And so it was a lot of that. It was a lot of going back and forth, mixing and matching blog posts. And then after we picked them definitively, of course, we changed a couple later on, but we sewed them together with extra stuff. We edited whatever we needed to edit. I added worksheets so that it's actually like a little bit more of an actionable book. I do call it the non-self-help book because I don't consider it necessarily self-help, but it sort of falls in that genre.
Right.
But yeah, so we started it 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago, and that's sort of how it started, just separating things out. And then I mean, both of us suffer from depression. So then there were several like depression breaks in there. I went through 2 rounds of beta reading. So I sent it out to people, twice. And beta reading's always a little bit sketch because, I mean, first of all, if you're paying them to get it back to you at a certain time, that's one thing. Then usually I'm certain they'll get it back at a certain time. Mine
Right.
were people in my life that I offered money to, but they didn't want it. And I'm like, then I don't feel like I have the right to ask them to get it back at a certain time. So I just kind of let
Got
them
it.
do their thing. So then, there are some beta readers who actually never, never responded to me, even though they said they would do it, which I don't mind. But once again, you sit and wait, and you're like, okay, I'll wait to do the next round of editing until I hear back from the beta readers. And then you're waiting on some of them for forever. So then at some point you cut it off and you go, okay, we're making the edits that these people said, or we're looking at the edits these people said, making some, not making others. So a few beta reader conversations, and just, working that stuff in. My editor did one final edit. We sent it off to another editor to just do another final edit. And then it was design stuff, because that's not my wheelhouse at all.
Gotcha.
Stuff, we used a few different people, an illustrator as well as a designer and formatter. And then I guess, what would it be, 10 days ago, I was able to hit publish on Amazon, and then a few days later publish on Ingram, and now it's live.
Nice. Well, congratulations. That's amazing. So you said it was about 2 years it took for you to like start the writing, go through like the editings to publish?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nice. I commend you. That's amazing. That's and another episode. It was somebody that I worked with, and she was like hiding the fact that she wrote 3 books. So by the time I found out about her 3rd book and thought that it was her first book, she's like, oh no, I wrote 2 more. And I'm like, what? I'm like, why are we not talking about this more? Like, this should be a constant point to your conversation. Like, hey,
Right.
I have a book. I wrote 3. Like, you're an author at this point. Like, you just didn't write 1 book. So I just get really excited when I see people take that plunge, because I'm a book reader myself. I've been reading books for like forever. That was kind of like my punishment. When I was a kid, it was like, oh, well, you can't read a book. And I was just like, well, why? Because they're like, you're having too much fun. So that's just pretty cool. I like how things kind of align in that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what did you find was your biggest challenge in your book writing? Or how did you receive the criticism that you got from your beta readers? Were you impacted by that at all?
That's a good question. Well, it was nice to have my editor kind of balance me out, because I would get, first of all, sometimes contradictory stuff, because I started 4 sentences just then and did not finish any of them. So I had beta readers that not spanned too wide, but spanned from Gen Z up to Gen X. And a couple of I would say a majority of the Gen X readers were like, I can't relate to this. If you had me read this 20 years ago, I would be able to relate to it. And that's fine. I'm happy with that. That shows that it is a bit more niche, which is fine. And I think necessary. It is funny though, because my editor is Gen X, and he's like, I think that's bullcrap. He's like, I respond well to this material. I think I can relate to it. And I'm like, whatever. Like, some people can't, some people can. Actually, this was my favorite. Okay, actually, are you familiar with the movie Scrooged? With Scrooged with Bill
I
Murray.
know that but yes. I feel like I watched it like a couple of times when I was a kid. It's an older movie, right? Because the name just sounds like really familiar.
So so it's like, so it's called Scrooge. So he's like this miser, right? And then the ghosts visit him, whatever. But before that, when they show what a jerk he is, he works as at a I guess an advertising agency. And so they show him the commercial for their new thing. And they were like, this commercial caused someone to like go into cardiac arrest because of all the explosions and stuff. And he's looking down and you think he's like super upset, like grieving or whatever. And he's like, that's fantastic. He's like, I want a warning on this. Anyone with heart issues, leave the room now. Like, I love that. That was sort of my response. So one of my beta readers was like, I don't have depression and anxiety, but reading your book gave me anxiety. And I was like, I'm putting that on the front. Neurotypicals beware. Don't come looking for this. It gives you anxiety. Like perfect. So that criticism was fine. I was good
I
with that.
mean, hey.
But like I had like Gen Xers be like, I don't love that you put like trigger warnings or like talk about privilege at all. Like, the Gen Xers were kind of against that. Whereas literally some of my Gen Z beta readers were like, I'm so glad you put that. That's really important. And I'm like, yeah, I agree. I think it's important. So it was kind of like bouncing things like that off of my editor and seeing what made sense, because it was on the bright side, a lot of the criticism I got would be contradictory to what someone else said. Like, I was worried. It's only 146 pages. To me, it's pretty short. And I was really concerned that that was too short and that it wasn't worth anything. And, imposter syndrome, blah, blah, blah. And so I literally asked that in my beta reader questions. The final question was, does it feel like a complete piece? And some people said yes. And some people said no. And some people, I want to say one person like rode the line and was like, this is fine for this. I think you need a part 2 later on that kind of builds a little bit more on this. And so I brought that up to my editor and I'm like panicking, like, oh my God, these 3 more chapters. What are we supposed to do? Like, I don't know. And he's like, calm down. He's like, no one else said it was long enough. Calm down. And I'm like, okay. Like, I'm like freaking out. But so it was nice to have someone outside of my head kind of help me a little bit. But yeah, and it was, like I said, it was nice having so many different perspectives, because it was like, if they were contradictory, we could kind of go with one or the other. And when you do something niche like this, you're not going to please everybody, and it's not going to touch everybody, and it shouldn't. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So validating, definitely.
Yes. That's cool. So what kind of like worksheets did you incorporate to help with dealing with depression and anxiety? Because I've experienced situational depression, and then for a second there I was like, well, am I like, is this like functional like depression? Because like it was just I started hearing so many terms to kind of like describe what I was experiencing. So what kind of action steps or worksheets can people like process to help them clear up their own situations?
So I'm not a therapist, right? So I never, and actually that's at the beginning, like, bro, I'm not a, my good expert is what I want, expert, doctor, whatever. Like, I'm none of those things. I'm not going to cure anything. And actually, that's why I call it a non-self-help book, because literally from the get-go, I'm like, I'm telling you what worked for me. I don't know if it's going to work for you. All I can do is tell you what I did, give you worksheets that make you a little more thoughtful, and then you can apply those and see if those help, or adjust them for yourself and see if that helps you. And it's all about self-awareness. So it's almost, so first of all, I would say with self-awareness, the point is knowing yourself, knowing anxiety and depression, knowing them like they're your neighbor, and kind of understanding how to function within them if possible, which for some people it's not. Some people it's too extreme, which I understand. But I also have some, like, it was funny. I have some disordered eating issues as well that are brought up in the book. And one of my dad's friends, which once again, they're all like Gen X boomer-ish people. And so he knows that I have like depression, anxiety issues. And I said something about disordered eating, and his response was, you have that too? And I was, but like, when you're talking to that generation, like, they just think you're making an excuse for everything, right? So I literally turned to him and I was like, yes, but the point in naming it is that now I can work around it, and I know my limits, and I know what needs to be done. And I know, like, so let's say with disordered eating, I know when I'm getting into a dangerous pattern so that I can pull myself out. Like, I need the self-awareness piece is just the most important piece to start any of this.
Yeah.
So for the worksheets, I'm trying to remember what each one is. I can at least name a few. So like my first chapter, I talk about my hierarchy of needs. Are you familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
Yeah.
So one of my majors in college was neuroscience, and I learned about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and I feel like almost every day I bring it up, like it's been able to apply to so much because it's so real. Like I so
Yeah.
agree with that. I think it makes perfect sense in so many situations. And so what I essentially did was it ends up being my hierarchy of needs of mental health, right? Like what needs to be met in order for me to take on new projects, what needs to be met in order for me to feel comfortable, like dealing with social anxiety. Because if my basic needs aren't met, like I'm not going out at 9 o'clock at night to be near a bunch of people. I can't handle that. But other
Right.
times I can. How do I know whether or not I can? Because I don't want to commit to that and then I have to back down when I knew I wasn't going to be able to handle it in the first place. That's not fair or
Mm.
right of me to do for me, I think. So in chapter 1, the worksheet is designing your own hierarchy of needs, taking mine, thinking about how I divvied things up and how it would make sense for you to divvy things up. There's like a triangle on there for you to like fill things in. One of my blog posts that made it into the book that really yeah, it resonates with me. I wrote it, right? It resonates with me.
Well, it's part of your story and it's important.
I wrote about how the comfort zone is not a dirty phrase. And
Okay.
I'm really about like things like that. I'm very much about personal development that goes against hustle culture. That's really one of my biggest things.
Okay.
So one of the worksheets is literally all about seeking comfort. And it's like, tell me the things that you find comfortable in your life. Tell me why. And then not tell me, but like write for yourself. What
Right.
brings you comfort? Why does it bring you comfort? And then how can you incorporate that comfort more into your life?
Okay. I like that spin because I mean, everywhere you go, everyone is like, oh, you got to come out of your comfort zone. Like if you're not, excuse me, if you're not doing something that's making you uncomfortable, you're not growing. And it's like, I see that aspect, but then it's like, if something is really making me uncomfortable, like, why am I doing it and kind of putting myself through like some kind of weird trauma that I may not be understanding right now, but could show up 5 years from now. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like, you got to find your own balance in it, and in the areas that you want to grow, then obviously do the things that are gonna open you up to those challenges you want to overcome, but it not to wear you down. So that's a nice fresh take. I can receive that.
Yeah, I
Can.
like I said, I just try. I one of the other ones, which it was written so recently that it wouldn't have been in the book, maybe in the next one, but I found a mindfulness journal in a local not bookstore, but like crystal shop over here. And it was like, oh, mindfulness journal. I look on the back because I love journals and I hoard them.
Yes.
Said something like, oh, how to set and achieve your goals. And I think I had a whole rant. This poor small business in the downtown area. And I am having a rant about how, being mindful and setting goals are two things that are so far incongruent that they cannot go together. And I kind of paused and I'm like, there's a way for those two things to coexist. I'm like, damn it, I'm going to write that. I'm going to
Yeah.
write about how those two things coexist because no one does them correctly. Not, I shouldn't say no one, but I have been known to find a goal and then blindly go towards it without realizing how little it'll help me or how
Right.
detrimental it would be until I get to the end and I'm like, why did I do all of this? Like it didn't
Yeah.
make sense.
Yeah. And then just you saying that kind of reminds me of something I was reading this morning. I was reading about like the law of detachment. And it was saying like the best way to like meet the goal or meet your success is not to be too stuck on the end result, because you're going to be missing, whatever new opportunities could possibly come up in between you actually claiming it or saying that this is going to be your goal and you meeting that. So that's a nice fun twist, and I love how it just all comes together. The energy is in the room. So that's definitely cool. I love that. I
Yeah.
love that.
There's
Yeah.
power in pivot.
Yeah, and I know there's plenty of people that are pivoting. I pivoted myself. I was an assistant, and then I was just like, well, what are we gonna do now? And then part of my own story, like it just kind of blows my own mind that I'm doing stuff like this, because there was at one point where I was like kind of like scared to even come online, where it was like, well, I know what's happening to like other people and the little trolls that are out there. But if you just, kind of if you don't do it, you really don't know what the end result is. So I'm always like, just try it. The worst thing that happens is you find out you don't like it, and that's okay too.
Definitely. Definitely. And I think we get so caught up in like, I don't know. I feel like, as kids, we joined the T-ball team, and then when we wanted to quit a few weeks in, our parents are like, you made a commitment, you stick with that. And then it made us so afraid of quitting. And I'm like, man, no, quitting's great.
Yeah, it's like when you finally realize like something is no longer serving you, or it's no longer bringing you like a pure joy, then it's like, why are you doing it? Because no one wants to wake up like, I don't want to go play t-ball. You're putting like all this like angst into it and all this energy of you not wanting to do it. Then it's like, well, why are you doing it? Like, it's obvious you don't want to do it. But that's just, something we all kind of learn and grow up and out of, which is cool. So now that I'm talking to another content writer, what are your thoughts about the whole Chat GPT phenomenon and the content creation that goes with it? Because I find it a very interesting topic, and just like the whole mindset around AI and these different productivity tools. So what are your thoughts?
At the end of the day, I truly don't know. I've used a few different AI chatbots to kind of like, they were like, oh, bolster your writing with these. And I tried them and I'm like, these are not what I wanted. I mean, maybe it's a stylistic thing. I mean, to be fair, for my personal blog, I would probably never use something like that, because first of all, my blog is there to bring me joy through writing. So first of all, it wouldn't make any sense. But second of all, like, I don't know. I don't know that it can grasp tone. I mean, I have had debates with people before, because I do some translation on the side. And I've had these debates with people before on whether or not AI will ever be able to fully do translation. And I've argued no, because of things. So maybe for something like very technical, like if it's very technical translation, I could say maybe. But things like I've translated poetry before, and I mean, you want an AI to generate rhyme, right? To do the rhyme correctly, to do the tone correctly. Like, even fiction, when you're translating, like, it takes a lot of research. It takes a lot of understanding different cultures that I just don't know that would translate correctly. So it makes me think probably something similar for content, that it'll just never have like the right spirit. I don't see any problem with using it as a jumping off point. And I don't see anything wrong with using it, period. But I think it might bump into it when, brands that I want to work with are brands that have this like sassy energy, right? Like this sassy, sarcastic, weird. I want to work with weirdos. You know what I mean? That's all I want. And I don't know that the weirdos are going to find weird, in there, in the chat thing. I actually applied for something today, and it was like, add your skills here, but it was like fill in the blank. And I'm like, oh man, they made their worst mistake. And literally it was a marketing agency, and my first skill I put was weird marketing. That's a skill. I hope you like it. Because that's just who I am. So like,
Right.
I think that people that I'm attracted to and that are attracted to working with me are probably not the type that are going to want to use that for everything. Maybe a little bit, and maybe to bolster content, but not for everything. So I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, sweet. That's what I've been telling everybody too. I'm like, it's just something else in somebody's toolkit that they may or may not be using, and it's okay. You don't have to follow that lead. It's just something that's available to you. So I love that. So what is kind of like your process in creating content, or like what are you scrolling through on Instagram that you're like, oh, this is kind of sweet. Let me see what else is happening in this kind of area, since you like weird things and I'm all for weird things. Let me have it.
So I'm trying to think. It's been interesting, because generally speaking, my blog is things that are going on in my life. Like right now, I haven't been posting as regularly as I would like I don't know. I think things go on in my life. I also think probably a little bit of depression, probably just a little bit of internal mental chaos. So I haven't been writing as regularly as I would like, but in all honesty, I'm glad I'm giving myself grace for that. I find that now all these things that used to make me uncomfortable I'm starting to kind of just find peace with them. So yeah, so they're take that, now they're comfortable. So all these people that say I can't live in this, guess what? Now I'm comfortable. So for a long time I was like, I must write every week. I must write every week. I must write every week. And I'm getting to a point where I've probably posted once a month in the past few months, but I'm pretty comfortable. And actually, so the post I've been working on this weekend and this week is about how I actually messaged a Gen Z friend. Oh, and she's going to hate that I called her Gen Z. She's going to be like, I'm a millennial. Don't call me Gen Z. I messaged her and I said, I'm trying to explain that I'm being a little bit more patient. I'm being a little more laid back. I'm not, number one, I'm giving myself grace, but also like, I'm not in a rush to do things. I'm like, I'm in what era am I in? This is Renata's blank era, fill in the blank. And she's like, your anti-rush era. I'm like, okay, I'm entering my anti-rush era. Cool. Like, thank you. So I've gotten a lot better at doing that for myself, like giving myself grace and not posting as regularly. That's mostly, so I like to joke that Instagram and Facebook are probably some of my best ways to find leads for jobs. Because once again, those things are very targeted. So you just interact with things that you want to see. And for me, they end up, yes, they're products, but they end up being places I want to talk to for content for them. So that's really what I end up doing is I end up going off on tangents to be like, oh, what about this place? What about this startup? What about that? What about that? And like, that's honestly, I probably use it more for something like that than anything else, really, when it comes to social media.
Well, hey, I mean, that's not a bad route. Excuse me. That's not a bad route to go in, because I feel like that's kind of like the song that they're singing these days anyway, when it comes to being on social media. Like you shouldn't just be scrolling aimlessly on there, but I mean, everyone just kind of needs a place to just be. And not everything has to be like production. Like you also need to let your mind rest and just let your mind do whatever it's going to do, because you'd be surprised at what ideas and things come to your mind where you're just chilling. So take that, guys.
So many things come to me when I'm riding in the passenger seat of a car, right? I don't have to pay attention to where we're going. Someone asked me recently, so I made an interactive version of my resume a couple weeks ago. And someone asked me today, she was like, oh, how did you come up with that? And I'm like, driving down the highway. I'm like, my fiance was driving, I was sitting in the passenger seat, and I went, I'm going to get home and make an interactive version of my resume. And he, where did that come from? I'm like, yeah, as well as I do. I have no idea.
That's great. No, and when you showed it to me, excuse me, let me just drink some water because I don't know what's happening with my voice.
Go for it. I'm sipping 3 different beverages, so I can't say anything.
No, I don't know, but just I'm like, wait, what is happening right now? Like, why am I all of a sudden? But whatever, that's neither here nor there. No, I loved your resume when you showed it to me. So what are some easy things people can do to kind of make their resume stand out that you thought was like pretty cool as you were designing yours, or you were like, oh, I never thought about this before?
So, I mean, genuinely speaking, for the interactive, that's really, I mean, if you're going for creative positions or you're going for being a generalist like I am, I felt like that was my approach to those 2 prongs. Was I needed something to show my creativity to make it look different. And also I always want to be different. I always want to be doing something weird. That's just who I am. And also as a generalist, like trying to fit everything on one page, I did it, but it doesn't end up being holistic. You know what I mean? And everything's relevant. And they're like, well, not everything's relevant. I'm like, it is though. Like as a generalist, everything is relevant. So whether you're doing a 1-page, and once again, so like, ATS filters out things, right? So there's no way I could push that through an ATS system. I just, on my static, I have a link at the top. Click here to be taken to my interactive resume. And then on the interactive, it's click here to be taken to my static resume. Like I make it so that people can interact with both. Although to be fair, I expected some recruiters, hiring managers, founders to kind of look at that and be like, this is too much. Like you're making me work. Just hand me a piece of paper. That's all that I asked you for. I have not gotten that response yet. I have only gotten positive feedback, which is really interesting and really exciting. I think it's cool. I think it's a neat new way to do resumes. I really want someone to approach me, some outlet like Business Insider or Forbes to approach me and be like, hey, can we talk about that? And I would be like, yes, let's talk about this. It's weird and I like it. That's my
Yeah.
weird, and I like it. But so if you're just doing a one pager, or once again, or if you're doing something like that, I mean, I hate saying it, but keywords make sense. Like I hate putting that out there. I'm trained in SEO. I know what I'm doing in SEO. And I literally added SEO to my resume like last week. And I'm like, why has this not been on here for 2 years? I'm like, Renata, focus, come on. Like, think of, programs you've used. I don't know if everyone puts in every program, but like that's important too, especially for those things, those filtering systems. I've worked in Klaviyo, I've worked in HubSpot, I've worked in, what else? X, Y, or Z thing. Put that on there, because if it's filtering for it, it needs to be able to pull it out somewhere.
Yeah, because I was thinking about that for myself, and I'm like, well, I've been, exploring a lot of different things, and I've been building my own stuff. And I'm just like, well, what are the names of the things that I've been doing that I haven't even realized that I've been showing other people how to do it. And I'm like, well, this is a skill, and people need to know that I know how to do this. So I can definitely take a page out of your book on that note, and just like really claiming it and honing it. And it's just like, well, I know something that, someone else doesn't know, and I can help them, and that's cool in that area. So yes, I've been reevaluating my own little thoughts, like,
well,
that's what they say to do.
Yeah, and similar, I would say, once again, I do genuinely feel like it's kind of like a broken record. Like I feel like everyone's heard this advice, but like genuinely, the important thing is to have those different things that are still applicable, right? Like I'm generally a marketing person, although I'm a generalist. Like marketing is my core. So when I apply to be like an influencer manager, I'm like, okay, I've never managed influencers, but for one of my jobs, I vetted them. For one of my jobs, I managed freelancers, right? Like those two things are almost directly applicable, not directly, but almost directly applicable. And number one, the word freelancer or if the word influencer is in there, right? If I say, oh, vetted influencers, fun fact, ATS will see that and pull that out. So they'll know that. And second of all, it's applicable. Whenever I apply to be a community manager, I go, hey, no, I've never held the title of community manager, but I am an admin on a Facebook group in my personal life. So I know what it's like to be an admin of a Facebook group.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Taking what you're doing on your own time, or just not thinking about it. You just see, how much value there is in it. And you can just see, this is how you're connecting with people, and use that in a professional setting. So that's kudos to you for being so self-aware. I love it.
Well, that's what I said. I was like, now I can officially say I wrote the book on self-awareness. Yeah. That's what I did.
Yeah, you're taking, you're living out what you're writing. And that's cool. I mean, how many people can you say that these days, at least on social media? Because social media, they give you a facade, and it's like, I know sometimes I wonder, I'm like, okay, but how much of this is this person really living? Like, you're telling me one thing, but what are you actually really doing outside of this? So I love that you can get in front of that and just, be who you are, weirdness and all. It's fun. It makes you quirky. And I love it. I'm here for it. So you're welcome. What do you like to do for fun outside of content creation? What do you like to do? Like if it's a Saturday and the sun is beaming, what are you doing?
So either my fiance and I are walking around the outlets, or
There's outlets
out, like an outlet mall, like we have we have outlets about
I'm still learning this place, and I'm like, wait, we have outlets here? Tell me more.
5 or 10 minutes south of you actually they're nice. They're not like the biggest. They're really actually pretty small for like an outlet center, but they're nice. We hang out there on a nice day. I make my fiance buy me things. It's great. Either that or going out, or like we'll walk around downtown, go to the different shops there, have some picky foods there, right? Like whether it's French fries or ice cream or cookies. Play video games. I like yoga a lot. Yeah, so it's a lot of, I mean, I would not say eclectic. I would say it either falls under creative or woo-woo. Probably are the two probable things. Or puzzles. Like, I like video games and I like puzzles. So like generally speaking, I like things in that arena. But I mean, just getting coffee with a friend is great. As an extrovert, I prefer to be near people. Like I can be like, oh, I have the day to myself. This is nice. Within 2 hours, I've texted 4 people. I'm like, what are you doing? Like like I'm alone with my own thoughts and it's terrible. Please, please make me go outside. I can't.
That is hilarious. What video game are you playing right now?
So I was playing Dreamlight Valley yesterday, actually.
Never heard of it.
So
I live vicariously through my husband because unless it's Super Mario Brothers or Sonic the Hedgehog or Tetris, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Give me a bowling game, give me a real life game. So I'm just always curious, like, okay. But that's
so
cool.
yeah, it's Disney's answer to like Stardew Valley or Animal Crossing, where you live on a not an island, but you live in a village with like but they're all Disney characters.
Oh, well, that's kind of sweet and wholesome. I like that.
It's really nice. Yeah.
I love it. Well, now I know there's two things. Well, there's a couple of things we can do together. We can definitely go check out that tater tot pizza place thing. We can totally do yoga because that's my jam.
Yeah.
And we can go grab some coffee. So I'm looking forward to it. You can
Yeah,
show me what the heck to do around this place.
yeah, I got you. I've been here my whole life except for college, so yeah, I can tell you all the things. Absolutely.
Yes. Wait, and you went to Dickinson College?
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I was like, oh wow, I had a friend that also went to Dickinson College. So I thought that was also pretty cool. I mean,
Well,
hey.
wait, what year? what year?
This was I graduated high school 2004.
Okay.
So she must have graduated like 2008 or 2009-ish.
Okay. So we would have overlapped a little. I just would have been like freshman, sophomore while they were
Yeah.
junior, senior. Are you comfortable saying their name here and now?
The friendship is on hold right now. So I really don't want to I don't want to mention it and then come back in some weird way.
Okay.
So yeah, we're not gonna mention the name.
Got
But yeah, but I just thought it was just funny, and just lately I've just been seeing, how I'm connected to different people and really understanding how, or someone told me that you can get whatever it is, you're 6 people away from getting whatever you need, because we're all like connected to each other. And I was stunned when she told me that. I was like, really? And then like it just kind of stood in my head, and I've just been paying like better attention to like the people that I'm talking to, things that I'm seeing, and I'm like, wow, this is kind of real. I'm seeing, how I'm connected to different people in different ways. So it blows my mind. This universe is so wild.
I love that. It's so well, I mean, it's like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, right? It's like
Yes.
6 degrees. And you know what? I am more than willing to accept Kevin Bacon as my savior. So you know what? That sounds right. Base my entire belief system around Kevin Bacon. Sure. I can get behind that.
Yeah, he's a fun guy.
Very few belief systems I can get behind. One that is led by Kevin Bacon. Actually, I'm down for it. I'm so good with that.
I love it. So Renata, where can people connect with you and kind of like chat it up with you? Where are you? What social platform are you on mostly? Or is there an email people can contact you at?
So lately it's been a lot of LinkedIn. My URL on LinkedIn, and as well as my Twitter handle, as well as my Instagram handle, which is really great. It's really great. I could get all those. When you have a weird name, it works out great. So Renata O Leo, because my middle name's Olivia. So Renata O Leo. If you search Renata Leo on Goodreads or Amazon, you'll be able to find the book, because the title is long. The title is so long. So at this point, I just tell people the name, and I'm like, if I do write a second one, the title's just got to be shorter. I'm like, Renata, you can't do this again. Like, why did you? So it's Unapologetic Oversharing, Self-Awareness, and Buffalo Sauce.
Okay.
It's a beautiful title, but it is very long.
It's a memorable one.
Sure. As soon as I say to people, they're like, all right, can I find it anywhere? I'm like, just use my name. It's just so much easier. Although I'm always a fan of supporting local. So go to your local bookshop, tell them you're looking for it. They can get it from a distribution, like Ingram Spark will do their distribution. They can get it through there. I've given them a lovely discount, and then it gets on the shelves in a local bookstore, and that makes me happy. So do that. Put it on your Goodreads, like want to read, review it on there, review it on Amazon. If whether or not you like it, if you hate it, that's fine. Please still review it. That is okay. Yeah, and then so my email, you can also find me, you can find my blog, buffalosauceeverywhere.com. I'm always looking for guest posted. I mean, Deli, if you would like to come and do a guest post, I have
Oh, sure.
a Getting Real series where people come and get real and they just talk about vulnerable things.
Oh, I love that. I love that topic because I keep it real. Sometimes my mouth gets me in trouble, but I'm like, do you want, don't, if you don't want the truth, don't ask me for it because I'm gonna give it to you. Like there's only one way to do it. I don't sugarcoat very well.
Yeah, so that's it. So my email is Renata Leo 93 at Gmail, but you can find that on the blog if you go looking there. And yeah, so any content writers that like to be very vulnerable and be very open about stuff, I have some really awesome guest slots open too.
Oh, sweet. Well, thank you again. I had a great time talking to you. Like this was such a fun episode. And I can't wait to, see what more becomes of our friendship because you are my person. Like you are my people. I always say I find my people. So yes, you are my people. I'm really excited. And I'm so excited to see what's to come from you and for you because you really are a creative being. And I just love to see people owning the space that they're in, tapping into, their gifts, their talents, and just, doing the doggone thing, no holds bar. So I'm definitely here to support you. I love it. And everyone, I want everyone to have a fantabulous day. If you didn't hear it at all today, remember you are strong, you are worthy, and you are enough. And I'll see you on the next episode. Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.